Hi, lovely to have you here. Welcome to the Electro Revolution channel. My name is Michael and I'm a car and tech enthusiast. This is the final episode of a multi-part series where we did a trip from Sydney, New South Wales to Melbourne, Victoria, and on the way back. Now, in this particular episode, episode 4, we cover a fluke encounter with a BYD battery bus and a gentleman by the name of Steve who was driving it up from Melbourne, Victoria to Sydney, New South Wales, as the New South Wales government had purchased a whole range of these particular BYD buses. Quite interesting to go through that bus. You'll see Steve in the video. You'll see, of course, some people that also were interested in the bus, which I had to actually black out. But it was all a very entertaining part of the trip back because it was totally unexpected. Nevertheless, we also cover the last 2 charging stops, which is the EVIE charger in Tarcutta and also the Tesla 20-stall Supercharger in Goulburn, New South Wales. And of course, then we head all the way back. Now, we have learned quite a bit during this trip, and I think performed a lot better than we did the first time round. But as some commenters said in the first 2 videos, you really shouldn't be charging EV up to 100%. And the reasons are quite obvious because it takes a lot of extra time, a lot of extra cost, really for nothing. Because if you do multiple charging stops at shorter time intervals, you'll actually get home a lot faster. Nevertheless, this is all an experience, and this now proves in a real world situation how you really should be charging and planning your trips on an EV. So I hope you really enjoy this episode. Yeah, so this one here is a BYD bus. And this is the back area where we can see quite a bit of engineering behind that. Very lucky to be able to film this and to find this gentleman here. He's driving back also from Victoria to Sydney. He's saying that the New South Wales government has bought a fleet of these. There we are. A BYD bus. And he's been nice enough to invite us inside. So I'll just quickly take a look.
Charges in a car, I don't think twice about it, but with a bus.
Does it have onboard charger for AC plug-in or not?
DC only.
DC only. That's why you have this one.
Yeah, DC only. So if I found somewhere with 3-phase, 32 amp 3-phase, I can charge at 20 kilowatts with that as an emergency. Let's call it safety.
So that's an emergency charger.
Kind of, yeah.
No from BYD.
Commercial vehicles, not the cars. I'm nothing to do with the cars.
I understand, but is it local?
Amazing.
BYD
bus.
So commercial vehicles. We have our own service technicians that look after commercial vehicles because there's already over 140 in Sydney already. So the Sydney Airport Blue new buses, they were the first electric buses in the country in 2016.
2016, back in 2016, that is 11 years ago.
And they're still running around, no problem. So this is the first one that's got blade batteries in it, like the cars. They're not part of the structure of this bus. The next generation will be. So like the cars there and the Teslas and things, they're part of the structure in the middle of the car. But this is going to take me a while to charge because it's 382 kilowatts of batteries.
The charging speed is like around 50, 70s. It's not very fast.
It's not very fast here. The bus can take 230 kilowatts if the charger is up to it. But this
so how much batteries does this vehicle?
382 kilowatts, this one. So
amazing. And it's all in the bottom floor or not?
No, there's 6 in the floor at the back.
Yeah.
And there's 6 above this part, the front part of the roof.
Amazing.
It's about roughly 2 tons of batteries, something like that. So then you haven't got an engine or a transmission or anything.
Yeah, so you save on that weight.
Well, overall the vehicle's probably half a ton heavier than a diesel equivalent, something like that. So not that different, really, to be honest.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to see this and film it. So,
I'm sitting here for at least another hour, probably. So, yeah,
what's your name, by the way? Steve, I'm Michael.
Nice to meet you, Michael.
Likewise. Okay, now looking again at the BYD bus, I will be actually entering into it to also sit in the driver's seat. Now, this will be the first time I've personally sat in a driver's seat of a bus. And here we are. Let's see if I can zoom out a little bit. Yes, I can zoom out. And wow, that's a nice panel. Obviously there it's showing that the bus is charging at 49% at the moment. It says there it's doing it at 47 kilowatts, so it has slowed down considerably. The odometer reading is 4,000 kilometers, so it's still a relatively new bus. And it says here the estimated time to 100% state of charge is another 4 hours and 20 minutes. And that's, of course, because of such a huge battery pack that's in the vehicle. Now here we are, the dash of a BYD bus in Australia. And of course there you've got some fire hydrants and things like that. Now, quite a good experience overall so far. And here's the seat for the driver. It's got some controls on it. And the internal of the bus as we walk through it. Now, of course, we've got a spare tyre there with a minor charging system there in case of any requirements of charging. And turning around all the way. And this is the bus. Absolutely fantastic. And as the gentleman said, batteries on the top and in the floor. Now we're at the last charging stop before going back home. And now what we're looking at, this is the 350 kilowatt charger at Tarcutta, which is the EVIE charger. And as we can see straight away when I plug it in, we're at 55% and it's charging at 120 kilowatts right there. So yeah, this should be a good charging session. It looks like they have updated this since the last time I was here. You get a lot more statistics on the screen. So yeah, looking forward to finishing here. I intend to charge at 100%, so I'm not sure how long that's going to take, but it shouldn't take too long. My guess is that, like the last time I was here, that 120 kilowatt should go to at least 150. That would be my expectation. Let's go take a look at the inside of the car. Charging at 118.8 kilowatt. And here the console says we've arrived at the station in 32 Sydney Street, which is where this EV charging system is located. And honestly, I could do with the break. It's been a number of hours since we left the last charging system. Okay, so now we're at 90%, and that's actually not by choice, because both my vehicle here and the vehicle next to me, it stopped at 90% and the power went out. So even though I wanted 100% at 569 kilometers, that'll still make it home. So it's really no problem. But it would have been nice to get 100%. Nevertheless, it's time to go home. So likely we'll be home in another 4.5 hours or so. So likely about 8:30, 9 o'clock. Now, even though I don't actually need it or critically need it, we needed a rest stop anyway, and we were passing Goulburn. So I thought, you know what, we might as well drop by the Tesla Supercharging site at Goulburn again. So, you know, we've got to take a break. We're going to have a coffee and things like that. So might as well charge this. I don't know how much to charge it to, because we do actually have enough to get home. But nevertheless, this is what we've got. For trip A, we've traveled 435 kilometers so far. We've got 242 left with 41%. It's almost 7 p.m. And yeah, so I'll just start the charging session and we'll go from there. Charging at the Tesla Charging Supercharger site at Goulburn. And this is the screenshot off my phone. Now I started the charging session. Now this is what I see right on the side of the Tesla charging unit or the charging station. We see it at 43%, charging at 108 kilowatt. Charging session so far is 1 minute. And that's how much it's ingested right at the bottom there, 1.8 kilowatt. This is the charging station I'm using, similar to the one I actually used the other day. Currently on 105.9 kilowatt, 44%, 44 minutes to charge to 100%, which I'm not going to do. We're just going to take a break and then let it charge and then come back and see where it leaves off. Just something interesting as we walk into the KFC, there's actually another charging station here. Don't know what that's. What's that? That's ChargeFox right there. The ChargeFox. I didn't even know they were in Goulburn. Well, there you go. They've got 80 kilowatt chargers. I don't know why you would use ChargeFox when you've got 20 stalls next door with Tesla, but that's all right. You know, the Tesla charging system's up there, as you can see. And here we are with ChargeFox, just in case you don't want to charge with Tesla. So this is where we stopped the session at 80%, charging complete. And let's go see the vehicle. So this is now where we're at, 80%, even though we didn't need it, might as well do it. And trip A at 435.7, we'll zero that. And we'll get home right now. Well, in a couple of hours anyway. So I'm very happy to say we arrived home, and what is it, 9:13. So yeah, quite a bit. What's that, over 12 or 13 hours? Yeah, 13 hours to go back. But admittingly, we took so many stops. And instead of the 3 charging stops, we ended up doing 5. So yeah, I mean, either way, it was an enjoyable journey back, relaxing and no problem. So yeah, we come back here with 52%, 336 kilometers left. And the last leg of the trip was 164 kilometers. So what do we have here? 839 on trip B, which is the entire trip back from Melbourne to Sydney. So yeah, overall a good experience and a very good weekend. And that's the trip up and back from Sydney to Melbourne, EVIE show. We met a couple of people there, had a great experience, and then from Melbourne back to Sydney. Now that we've arrived home, we can now go through the statistics, the full statistics of the first 3 stops, which we went through in the last episode, and the remaining 2 stops that we did today. So let's bring up that table now. And as we can see from this table, the first 3 charging stops were the AMP charge, the EVIE, and the BP Pulse. The 4th charging stop was at the Ampol Foodary in Tarcutta, and that was the 350 kilowatt charger. The distance between the BP Pulse and the EVIE was 213.6 kilometers. The charge on that was 78 cents per kilowatt. The kilowatts ingested into the battery at that time was 32.614. It took 25 minutes and it cost $27.72. Now, the next stop we went to, we really didn't need to go to the next stop at this stage, because you remember when we went to the EV charger in Tarcutta, we had the blackout, the power blackout across the whole station. So the charging systems went down and the electricity at the petrol station went down. So that's why we stopped at 90%. Nevertheless, while we were passing Goulburn, we decided, you know what? we need a break anyway. Let's drop by the Tesla Supercharging site again on the way back. So that's what we did. At that time, we traveled already 222.1 kilometers. It cost us 74 cents a kilowatt. The charge ingested into the battery was 35.2591 kilowatts. It took 22 minutes and the cost was $26.09. And of course, that went from 41% to 80% battery. And of course, I could go straight home at that point, which I did. So going through the subtotals, the addition of all the distance traveled between charging stops was 701.3 kilometers. But of course, when we went home, it totaled 839.2 kilometers, which is about 521 miles. On average, we paid 76 cents per kilowatt. The charge added to the battery during each of those charging stops was almost 170 kilowatts. Overall, 2 hours and 24 minutes with a total cost of $128.30. Now, we can see there also the consumption and efficiency on the return trip was 18.43 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which is better than what we got on the trip up. And I'm guessing there's got to be something to do with maybe more uphill trip than downhill on the way back. That would attribute some of that better consumption or efficiency on the battery than on the trip up. So now let's compare on our previous 2,000 kilometer road trip from Sydney to Phillip Island and back. This was the old table that was presented in those particular videos. And as we can see there, we didn't really go through the fastest charges on the way up. We actually used a variation of 50 kilowatt charges up to 150 kilowatt charges. But the interesting thing there is the actual price, $89.12 on the way up, traveling 959 kilometers, which is considerably longer than what we traveled from Sydney to Melbourne. And on the way back, $82.93 with a total of $172.05 for both the trip up and the trip back. Now, when we consider the similar table for our trip up and trip back just from Sydney to Melbourne on this last trip, it was exactly $246.02. That's considerably a lot more expensive than the Sydney to Phillip Island trip. And when we compare the times between the Sydney to Phillip Island trip and the Sydney to Melbourne trip, remarkably, what a coincidence, and it's exactly to the minute. The total trip time up and back between Sydney and Melbourne is 4 hours and 16 minutes. The total time from the Sydney to Phillip Island, which is a much longer distance, was also the charging time of 4 hours and 16 minutes. That's a remarkable coincidence. There's some of the key takeaways for this series. Number one, it doesn't always pay off to use the fast chargers. Now, the cost is considerably more, as you can see from the table difference that we did. And number two, the distance traveled. When you look at the distance traveled compared to the cost of the previous trip and this trip, you're looking at about 300 kilometers difference. And we still paid more using the fast chargers. So my advice on that aspect is plan your trip according to your budget and according to the time it takes or the time you wish it to take between a long road trip, and balance that out. Consider the options. Is it a good thing to do to pay that bit extra to get there faster? Or is it not so good if you're happy to take your time, do a couple more stops than you really need to, and use the slower charges at those stops? Of course, you save yourself quite a lot more money by doing that. The second thing I would say is the time taken. It's funny that, the longer trip and the shorter trip took exactly the same time charging. And I think I account that to many more charging stops than I really needed when I did the trip back. But it's just a coincidence. It turned out to be 4 hours and 16 minutes. So in summary, it's always your choice on how you plan your trip and what's best to do in your charging trips, whether it's using the fast chargers or not, whether it's paying the premium rates or not. And I really hope these videos helped you in that decision. Let's close off this series now. So that was the end of episode 4. I really hope you did enjoy the entire series. I hope you learnt a lot out of it like I did myself. And until the next videos, I hope to see you then. By the way, if you did really like this video series and many of the other videos I do produce, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share this content with other people who'd be interested, or just leave a comment, even to say thanks. It really all helps. Until the next time, I hope to see you there. Bye for now.